It's almost time to start our actual costing scenario and start producing pulp. But before we can start creating process orders, we need to maintain some planned activity costs for our company. Otherwise, the manufacturing orders we will be creating do not collect any costs related to the manufacturing activities. If you have taken our previous product cost controlling course, you probably remember this slide. This flow provides us a summary of all the main cost planning related steps we need to do in the system. For this course, we will be using a little bit simplified version of cost planning compared to the previous course. We will be skipping all the gray boxes and won't be using any assessments or distributions. All the planned costs that we'll be using are listed in this Excel file. It is not necessary for you to maintain the same exact cost that I will be using. You can just as well create your own manufacturing flow with more or less activities than in my example. But I recommend you maintain at least some planned costs, as it will be much more fun to work with a more complete scenario. Before we start our quick summary, I want you to pay attention to the last step here. Actual costing functionality provides us also with another costing run transaction. This actual costing run transaction will be used to calculate periodic unit prices for materials. This is something that we will be discussing more during the next chapter of this course. We will still be creating a standard cost estimate for our material using the regular costing run transaction. But as you will see later, we need to be running the costing separately for all our valuation views, so we have a standard cost estimate for the legal valuation view, group valuation view, and profit center specific valuation view. Let's start our planned cost review by having a look at the cost I've maintained using KP06 transaction. The costs have been planned for the whole fiscal year for all the cost centers. I have created a cost element group called Pulp that has all the primary cost elements carrying manufacturing-related costs. As you can see, the same costs have been maintained here as listed in the Excel file. You might remember that in the previous course, we were only maintaining depreciation costs directly for the manufacturing cost centers. But as we are doing things in a little bit different, more simple way in this course, and won't be using any assessments or distributions, we can maintain all costs directly for the manufacturing cost centers using this transaction. Remember that you don't need to maintain planned costs for the machine hour cost elements. This machine hour cost is used as the credit side secondary cost element that will allocate manufacturing costs for the manufacturing orders we will be creating later. Also note that all costs are planned in euros and not in Chinese yuan, as euro is the currency used in the standard planning layout. The next cost planning step is to maintain planned activity quantities. Let's go to transaction KP26. I have maintained the number of machine hours per year as the machine hours activity quantity for all the cost centers. Our machines have been planned to run 24/7 without any interruptions, so the number here is the total number of hours per year. After inputting activity quantities, we can run cost splitting using transaction KS-S4. So this step is done to link the costs we have planned with our machine hours activity type. When running the transaction, you can see that the system shows the cost both in euro and in yuan. Note that the exchange rate type the system is using here is P, and not exchange rate type M, which is used by the material ledger. Exchange rates can be examined using OB08 transaction. The last step to run for activity cost planning is to run planned activity price calculation. Let's go to transaction KSPI. I have created a cost center group, Pulp, for all the manufacturing cost centers. Cost center groups can be created using transaction KSH1. When you are running this transaction, you might receive an error related to the exchange rates between euro and yuan. To solve this, you need to open transaction OB08 and maintain a type P exchange rate between euro and yuan. So you need to have a valid exchange rate maintained between euro and won for exchange rate type P. Next, it's time to create a standard cost estimate for our finished material using CK11N. Keep in mind that we are using the regular costing run transaction that will calculate standard costs for a material using the planned activity and raw material prices and not the actual prices related to the actual costing functionality. Enter the material number, plant number, and select PPC1 as the costing variant. I have already ran costing for the material, but just check if the costing results look correct and then save the costing run. After this, we need to use transaction CK24 to mark and release the costing run. Before you can mark the cost estimate, make sure that marking is allowed for the company code we are using. You need to allow cost estimate marking for all the 3 valuation views we are using, not just for the legal valuation. Insert company code, plant number, material number, and execute cost marking. As you know, marking the cost estimate is not enough, but you also need to release the cost estimate. Remember to also disable the test mode when running material marking and releasing. Let's go take a quick look at the material master data of our finished material. I select the Accounting 1 tab of the material. From here, select the current costing run sheet. If you compare my screen and your own screen, you can see that the cost estimates look different. With your material, you can see that standard cost estimate is available only for the legal valuation view, but the other views are both empty. This is because in the previous step, we only ran costing for the legal view. We need to create a standard cost estimate separately for these 2 other views. Let's open transaction CK11 again. This time, we will be selecting a different costing variant. The system provides us a standard costing variant that can be used for creating standard cost estimate for the group valuation view. Let's select this costing variant and then double-click it to have a quick look at the settings maintained behind the variant. We can see that costing type K1 has been maintained as the costing type. After we click the costing type button, we can see that group valuation has been selected as the valuation view. So this is the place where you can select which valuation view is updated when this costing type is used. So keep this costing variant selected and run costing again. In the cost estimate that opens up, you can see that the currency is euro and not won. Save the cost estimate and go to CK24 again. Mark and release the cost estimate exactly the same way you just did. After this, go check Material Master and you will see that Standard Cost Estimate is available for the Group Valuation view. After Group Valuation view is updated, we still need to run costing for the Profit Center Valuation view. Save the cost estimate and just follow the same steps as before. After this, we have a standard cost estimate available for all the valuation views. Now we are finally ready to start our actual costing scenario. We will first purchase our warehouse full of raw materials and then start running our production line with full speed.